So I'm here at the Canada Strong and Free Network Conference, that's formerly known as the Manning Networking Conference, with Tanya Granic Allen. Tanya is the host of the show Counterpoint on the News Forum, and she was also a leadership candidate in the 2018 Ontario PC Leadership Race. Tanya, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me here.
So why did you decide to come out to this conference?
Well, it's very exciting. The News Forum is here as a part sponsor of this event. We actually hosted the last the last Canada Strong and Free conference virtually when everything was locked down with COVID. So at our studios we hosted the whole conference. We looped in people virtually. It kind of worked out. Obviously it was a tough situation, but we made it work. And this year we're here in person. We have a booth and we've been interviewing people all weekend.
Well, that's amazing. As we're speaking right now, Ontario is in an election campaign. I know that last time around you were supposed to be a PC candidate. Of course, you were, in my opinion, cancelled. And that didn't go your way. But this time around, how are you personally feeling about Doug Ford? How have the last 4 years been?
Well, I haven't heard from Doug Ford in 4 years, and not even on the day that I was cancelled, so Doug Ford's not on my radar, if you will. But in terms of how things are, obviously COVID responses is top of mind for a lot of voters. You know, many of us haven't forgotten about the government's flip-flop on their promise and commitment to repeal the sex ed curriculum with the gender identity theory. Now apparently critical race theory might become an election issue. Housing affordability is of course a huge issue for many young Ontarians who want to get into the market. So it should be probably a tighter race than some predict on the onset, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time we spoke, we had talked about how the sex ed curriculum that was brought in, supposedly the improved one, was actually not that better. Do you want to maybe explain to our viewers why the Ford sex ed is, in your opinion, not better than the Wynne sex ed?
Well, through a court case in which the Assistant Deputy Minister of Education, when the Teachers Union was taking the Ford government or the Ministry of Education to court over the repealing of the Wynne sex ed, you know, there was an outcry where you're causing a chilling effect in the classroom, teachers won't be able to teach freely, and the Assistant Deputy Minister in the Education Department said, no, teachers can teach whatever they like, with whatever resources they like, at whatever age they like, essentially. They just can't test on it till the prescribed grade. So that basically has opened the floodgates, and that's why we've seen a lot more activist teachers taking that direction, if you will, and continuing with, and yes, it's true that they're virtually identical, the Kathleen Wynne sex ed and the Doug Ford sex ed. So it was a lot of money for a lot of nothing, I guess you could say.
Right, for sure. And you touched earlier on a critical race theory that's also becoming an issue. Why do you think that, unlike the Republicans in the United States, why do you think that some conservative provincial governments here in Canada seem to shy away from pushing back on critical race theory, or maybe even embrace critical race theory?
Well, I think not just even with the government, but I think Canadians in general just don't understand what critical race theory is. So I think we are now entering a spring, literally and figuratively, of where Canadians are going to become educated on this issue. You see a lot of more Canadians speaking out, educating us on what is critical race theory, what are some of the more concerns with it, and why it may not be the best lens to apply if we're looking to obviously, you know, reduce racism and things like that. So, you know, I interviewed a guest recently who is African Canadian, and he was explaining how critical race theory is actually rooted in Marxism, and you know, most Canadians don't want that kind of thing. So I think Canadians are waking up, Ontarians are going to wake up, and they're realizing what this is. And as children come home from school, because there are activist teachers still teaching this in school, they're hearing more and more about it.
So what can parents do to maybe ensure their kids don't maybe if a parent is concerned that they don't want their kids learning this stuff, or they know their kids being taught this stuff and they maybe want to educate their kid, like what should a parent do if they're aware that critical race theory is being taught in their schools?
Well, we hear a lot of complaints not just on critical race theory, but also with gender ideology. Yeah. So I always tell parents, look, speak to your teacher right on the offset if you're in a public education system, or even private for that matter, because there's a lot of private schools who are delving into this theory. But speak to the teacher, the instructor of your child, make it very clear what is and what isn't acceptable to you, that, you know, stick to the facts and the figures, and let's not go into experimental theories or radical theories here. And just make your boundaries very clearly known. And if it's a lesson that you don't feel comfortable your child is learning, then pull them out if possible. It's really hard to do though, because without advance notice, you know, how would you know when that lesson is coming?
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a bit now about the leadership race. During your run in 2018, actually at this convention center, you had blasted Patrick Brown. You said he should not be able to run as a PC candidate. You were very strong about that. He wasn't here last night, and he sent an email today saying that he actually had won. The media said he won the debate because he was out selling membership. What have you made of Patrick Brown's performance so far? Yeah,
you're right. It was 4 years ago, and actually he didn't attend that debate either because he had dropped out as a candidate. Remember when he re-entered to run and then dropped? So it was, I think, the morning or the night before of that other debate. But anyhow, look, I think knowing his politics, especially with respect to the carbon tax, probably wasn't his crowd here. So I don't think he made the wrong decision. However, if you're running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, you're going to have to face the music at some point, and you know. Anyhow, but he's not wrong also knowing that at the end of the day, the people who are voting are the members. So hustling to sell membership is a good thing. But it was a very intense debate. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a lot more fiery than I had thought it would be.
Well, yeah, for sure. It sure was. I got to ask you too, Roe versus Wade in the U.S., there's rumors that it may be overturned now.
Well, not even rumors. It was they leaked the draft.
Sorry. Yeah. American politics always tends to infiltrate Canadian politics, where we see this Americanization. So, of course, this issue is now being infiltrated. Do you think this is an opportunity for maybe the pro-life movement in Canada to capitalize on that and say, well, if they're having this debate again, maybe we can have this debate too?
Well, I don't think we should ever not have the debate. I think a sign of a healthy democracy is the ability to discuss issues that are top of mind of Canadians. The abortion issue comes up almost every election, so clearly Canadians want to discuss it. It is out there. Yes, I think Canadian politics is in some regard downstream of American politics. So I do think, I think it's already we're going to see that, you know, it looks like it will be overturned if this draft decision stands, that it will be overturned, and I think that we will see more discussion about that in Canada. However, you know, I always like to explain to our fellow citizens, we don't have a law on abortion in Canada. There's nothing to be overturned. We have actually an absence of laws. So there's been a lot of discussion saying that we should bring in a law on abortion in Canada. But as it stands right now, it's more or less a free-for-all.
Right, you're right. And a lot of liberal countries in Europe have abortion laws, and they have certain limits on weeks.
Yeah, term limits, time limits, gestational laws, if you will.
In closing off, is there anything you want to maybe add or tell our True North audience?
Well, it was great having the True North here. I saw you interviewing many very good people. Of course, the more conservative-friendly media, the better. So I think many of us conservatives were happy to see that. So it's always a pleasure.
All right, thank you very much, Tanya.
Thank you.